Welcome back to teleSUR English. Now we go live to the UN as the 77th General Assembly takes place and Benin representatives addresses the Assembly.
Distinguished heads of state and government, distinguished Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, heads of delegations, distinguished delegates, the privilege and the high honor falls to me on behalf of Mr. Patrice Talon, President of the Republic of Benin, who is unfortunately unable to be here, to make the following statement. As I open this statement, I wish to address to you, President, my warm congratulations upon your successful election to the presidency of the 77th regular session of the General Assembly. I also wish to express my congratulations to your predecessor, His Excellency Abdallah Shahid, and his team for the remarkable work done with dedication and skill during his mandate, which deserves to be praised. I also pay tribute to the Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, with our appreciation for the laudable efforts he tirelessly makes alongside the members to realize the noble objectives of our shared organization. President, Excellencies, the topic for this year is a watershed moment, transformative solutions to interlocking challenges, a pressing call to action. Indeed, the session is taking place in a difficult international context, marked by the combined outcome of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine, with their economic, political, and social impact on the whole world. For peace and security, the first pillar of the United Nations action on the worldwide scale, action from us, in the opinion of my delegation and in accordance with the clearly expressed position of the African Union, calls for respect of international law, territorial integrity, and national sovereignty of Ukraine. We thus call urgently on the parties to the conflict to immediately adopt a ceasefire and open political negotiations without further ado in order to save the world from the consequences of planetary conflict. Regionally, particularly in the zone of West Africa where Benin belongs, peace and security are threatened by the combined effects of terrorist threat and piracy at sea, which are both major obstacles to the free circulation of people and goods, as well as the development of the countries concerned. These obstacles, far from being purely regional problems, are an international threat and call for an immediate response which is consistent and comprehensive from the community of nations. Turning to development, the second pillar of United Nations action, it is no longer time for analysis. We already have the Sustainable Development Program for 2030, the 2030 Agenda, which give us a real plan of action for humanity and the Earth, immediately and for the future in a forward-looking process. In the awareness of its own responsibility, Africa drew up and launched a transformative vision for the continent, the Africa we want, which is the 2063 Agenda of the African Union. We are resolutely committed to economic integration and speeded industrialization with added value and greater integration in the world value chain. All this to say that Africa's development, as well as the 8 major priorities of the United Nations, should continue to be considered as it was last July during the high-level dialogue on Africa organized jointly by the General Assembly and the Economic and Social Council. It is still urgent in this decade of action for robust, specific actions to support our thinking so that solutions will be provided to the concerns proper to Africa. Benin, for its part, is resolutely committed to provide for a minimum social platform for all in engaging tirelessly to meet the vital needs of all citizens, which are appropriate clothing, good nutrition, decent housing, proper health care, and quality education. To this end, and through courageous reforms for governance and the proper mobilization of internal financial resources, the government of Benin is working on finding innovative sources to mobilize the necessary funds for its development by issuing, for example, the special SDG Eurobonds. Strong, appropriate support must be given to our country. Besides the efforts that we ourselves are making in order to strengthen and sustain our achievements and effectively respond to ongoing challenges. When development is to be sustainable, besides covering its economic and social components, we need to think of the environment, without which development would not be sustainable at all. For this reason, more than ever, it is time to continue our joint efforts to respond appropriately to the problem of climate change, which are a true existential threat to Benin, because of the combined effects of one, desertification in the north, two, coastal erosion and increasing salinity of fresh water in the south, and three, increased disturbances of the cycle of the seasons across the territory. In this context, we have great hope in COP27, which will take place next November in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, and we call on all the community of nations to undertake fruitful discussions with good outcomes, responding to the challenges which will restore our hopes. Turning to the promotion and protection of human rights, Benin, on the international level, early this year, beginning its mandate as a member of the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, is providing and will continue to contribute to promote and actively facilitate all initiatives for the attainment of the SDGs, which is the most sure way of guaranteeing respect for human rights. Nationally, Benin is working on mobilizing resources, making it possible for the population to access proper food, quality education, healthcare protecting the most vulnerable, drinking water, electricity, and their own energy sources. Faced with the many challenges before us, the time has come to preserve and strengthen multilateralism, which is truly inclusive and based on fair rules which apply to all, as the melting pot for thinking and actions to contribute viable global solutions. Benin provides full support to ongoing diplomatic initiatives within the United Nations to find peaceful, lasting, fair solutions to the issue of the creation of a viable Palestinian state with full international sovereignty and living in peaceful coexistence with the State of Israel. Efforts to find a permanent solution to the issue of the Western Sahara, making the most of the political process and its achievements, held under the auspices of the Secretary General of the United Nations, which aims to find a compromise solution in the framework of the implementation of the relevant resolutions of the Security Council. The issue of the economic, commercial, and financial embargo on Cuba. On this front, Benin associates itself to the statements of the relevant summits of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, as well as the resolution of the 35th regular session of the African Union in February 2022 in Addis Ababa. We call for normalization of relations between Cuba and the United States. As the Secretary General indicates in his report entitled Our Common Program, humanity throughout history has shown that it is able to produce great results when it acts as one. More than ever, it is an issue for humanity to make a choice between remaining passive and acquiescing to continued breakdown or acting resolutely to build a better future. I'm persuaded we will hear the voice of reason. Today's topic, the session's topic, is aptly described as decisive. We are called on to find transformative solutions to interlocking challenges. This is only possible through multidimensional partnerships involving governments, multilateral organizations, the private sector and civil society in a spirit of shared responsibility to take a robust action to comprehensively implement current agreements. With this call for responsible action, with faith in our ability to work together to respond to the challenges, I wish full success to the work of the 77th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. My delegation is prepared to make every effort to follow up on our commitments and those of all members to achieve the SDGs by 2030. Long live multilateral cooperation, more robust, inclusive, and consistent to serve sustainable development. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
The chair of the delegation of Benin.
We were listening to the live statements of Benin representatives.